Got some weird audio fuckery happening. So, welcome everybody to the show for April 18th, 2022. This is Counter Clipping number 70, which is a milestone in two ways. One, it's number 70, and two, we hit 5,000 subscribers. I think yesterday. I don't feel like YouTube actually updates that live, so I think it kind of it updates like once a week or once every couple of days, or so, I don't know, something like that, because it feels like it comes in batches after it sits a while. So we have the 5,000 subscriber celebration. We're going to talk about Wargaming Communities because that's kind of what we're about here. So I would like to welcome everybody. First of all, we're drinking Oban Little Bay, which is kind of one of these non-age statement type of things. It's good, but it's not as good as the regular Oban, to be honest about it. So, so we will continue to drink it until it goes away. We have some special occasion stuff, but I did shave. What are you talking about? I trimmed this up and everything. So we do have some giveaways tonight. I'm trying to come up with a technological solution to the giveaways question that doesn't involve me saying pick a number and then trying to find the person that picked that number. That's a pain in the ass. I am still researching applications to do that with. I can do it through StreamYard. It's in an automated way, but so as a result, which this is not a bad thing, we're going to have two giveaways tonight, and there will be at least two giveaways next week as well. So there's no reason particularly for us to limit our giveaways to 1 week with a big milestone, right? It's a big milestone already. So we are clipping Into the Woods, but literally what I have in the box here is all that's left of Into the Woods. I'm just doing the number markers that track manpower in the regiments themselves. So we will transition to another game at some point during the show, and I have a thing for that. So before we get started here, I would like to remind everybody to please do thumbs up the video. Please do subscribe to the channel. It is greatly appreciated by me. If you want to support the channel, you can look at the Patreon. It's linked in the video description for that. If you would like to support Ukraine, there is a links page also linked in the video description of vetted places where you can safely give your support to the conflict in Ukraine, to the Ukraine, right? Not to the Russians, and not have to worry about whether it's a scam. So please do take a look at that as well. As we discussed last week, Channel of the Week will no longer, I will be happy to mention, cool channels as they come up, and I'll continue to do that. But Channel of the Week is now subsumed into the Channels tab. If you go to the channel page, there's a Channels tab now with a bunch of vetted and, Ardwulf's Lair approved channels on there. Channels that the stuff that's on there is the stuff that I watch all the time and personally enthusiastically endorse. So let's say hello to Jeff Beeler, Vince Ree, Dale Brady, Charles Latorra, Strelnikov, Joe Faust from ugly Northeast Ohio, Charles Latorra, we got you already, Joe Okabayashi, Jason W, Bayonet Brandt, Tom Borman, Tim Zales, Andrew Franca, Wade Moore, Kyle Reese, Bill Thornton, Todd Walser, Charles Latorra. I keep reading Charles off. He is definitely here. Rogue 77. Tony Mammal, Manders, John Longshore, Mo Romaniuk. Welcome to the stream. Beat Cafe, Chet Bell, Andrew Cook, Matt Taylor, Daniel Silverthorne, Alan Salazar, Rob Johnson, Alexander Fontaine Rousseau, Lee Grant, from a Quinn Martin production, Lind Pratt, Bill Simone, Patrick from Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, Ken X or Ken 10, as I probably should start calling him, Missing Seattle, Jeffrey Wesovich, Nicholas Oliver, Achilles, Rudy Armendariz, Doug Sunseth, Ray Musselman, we got Achilles already, the Command Tent, Fucko is in the house, Carl from the Wargame Bootcamp, Adam, Mike, Anthony, William Bird, John Keyports, Marty Sample, let's see, David Imperato, Kev Morris, Brian Gasha, Phil Bukzowski, Cataclysm Now, Hemi Dad, GT Pony Rider, Bob Moriarty, Sanct Helios, Rick Cox. Boy, there's a lot of people here. There's a lot of people. Oh, shit, there's a lot of people here. Hissy Cat Studios. If I miss anybody, let me apologize in advance. Christopher Prest, Robot Has a Heart, Frank Shuley. Let's see. I think I got everybody. Again, if I missed you, I'd apologize. We're going to have special shout-out stuff happening this episode. So in addition to the giveaways, we'll do one around the top of the hour and then one in, say, the last half hour of the show. Like I said, I want to have like an app that handles it for me so I don't have to sit here and paw through the things. But I also promised giveaways when we hit 5,000 subscribers. So I don't have any problem saying there'll be giveaways next week too. So I'm going to play for you a special video that's fortunately less than a minute that was actually the very first video that I uploaded to Ardwulf's Lair back in 2009. It is video game related. It is epically terrible, and it's like 50 seconds. So, but I felt like it was, kind of worth a look. And if it had been a 10-minute video, there's no way I would do this. So, watch. So yeah, look how far we've come, right? That's pretty bad. There's like a credits roll at the end that's like half as long as the whole video. It's, looking at it, it's even worse than I remembered, okay? The second video that I did, I think, was an EVE Online video that's about 6 minutes long. I wasn't going to play that. I mean, you can go ahead and paw back through the channel archives if you want. And that's got a couple thousand views. That thing that you just watched has like a very small number of views. So back, you got to start somewhere. I will say that was 13 years ago. And the standard for content on YouTube was even lower at the time. So the counter clipping stream is a literal barrel of monkeys in comparison. I'm also going to remind folks that Connections Online is starting, so if you're interested in that, we did a video the other day, so go watch that video if you're interested. It is a professional wargaming conference, but I think it does have stuff of interest to hobby wargamers as well, so check that out. I don't have a link in the video description directly to that, but there is a link to the events calendar on the Armchair Dragoons website, and if you go to the Armchair Dragoons website, it will take you to the Connections website. So the Ardwulf name, the kind of brand, originated actually with, this was pre-logo, not taking this very seriously at all. Back in the day, in around 2007, which is when I started the blog. The blog's still there. It's linked in the video description. But I last wrote a blog post like 8 months ago. I mean, there's like 2 posts a year that go up to that blog. And generally speaking, what gets posted to the blog is like when I very occasionally have something to say about MMORPGs, which is not really very often. But we may talk about that a little bit later, because I have actually been playing ESO, but it has not been a major focus of my gaming efforts in a long time, and time's a factor, right? I don't have that much time to fart around with this stuff. So what are we doing right now? We are still playing War in the Desert. We anticipate that there will be one more session of War in the Desert before we roll over to Pacific War, which I'm very excited about. That's actually sitting right next to me, punched and clipped. The boxes on the shelf, because it's not like the counters fit in the boxes. I'm very excited about Pacific War, and I actually have a Pacific War thing that I want to show you. Do I have the thing up? Yes, I do. So there have been questions. People have asked me this in person, and people have asked this question online about the weird, and yeah, let's face it, it's an unusual map projection used in Pacific War. Well, I have located an electronic version of the Pacific War map, which I've managed to hide. There we go. Okay. So this is kind of the, remember it's two maps side by side, right? And there's kind of like an east map, which is mostly ocean, and there's kind of a west map, which is where the east coast, most of the east coast of Asia is. But you'll notice it's kind of a little more curved than you might normally expect. But this is kind of the logical orientation you might assume, just based on, the orientation that maps usually get, right? But people say, oh, this is weird, the text is facing a different direction. I'm going to show you something else. If we rotate this 90 degrees, now the east map is on the bottom, and the west map is on the top, and you are looking at it. I don't know why that keeps happening. And you are looking at it from the standpoint, look at this map and imagine it on a table. Then imagine where you, the observer, are sitting. You're sitting about, just off the coast of California. That is a really subtle and clever piece of wargame cartography, I think. The text is all oriented from the American perspective. And I think, to some extent, it's academic because you could play most of the scenarios on that mini-map, and I think that's what most people will end up doing. I think most of the scenarios that people will play all the time will end up getting played on that little mini-map. So, so that was a thing that I noticed that I thought was relatively interesting. I will also mention, I don't know if I misread the date or what, but Almoravid from GMT just billed, I just got hit for it today. I thought it was billing on the 12th, but apparently I'm on dope or there was a delay. But I did get, I started to question, did I actually order it? Because that's a thing that could happen. I expect there will be video on Pacific War, so it's probably not going to be live video or like playthrough content. Well, it's not going to be playthrough content, I'll tell you that. But I will have things to say about Pacific War, so stay tuned for that. We do have Stigler says that Stuka Joe's first video was The Godfather and Coppola stole it. So there's actually I'll mention this. I was going to talk about this briefly later in the show. I will mention that there's a TV show about the making of The Godfather called The Offer, which is coming to Paramount Plus, I think, starting this month. And despite the fact that everything else that I have seen on Paramount Plus has been really very dumb, I am kind of excited about that. I've watched. The Star Trek Discovery has its moments, but it's not smartly written. Picard has its moments from what I've seen of it. So both shows, I'm not caught up on either show at this point. Both shows have their moments. Both shows could use a lot tighter writing. And I watched the first episode and a half or so of the Halo show, and it's really dumb. It's way dumber than even the dumbest Star Trek. It's dumb. Anyway, so Achilles just ordered Pacific War on Friday. I kind of suspect the Pacific War is going to sell out, so, if you want it, then I would recommend getting it. So, one of the other things that I want to do here is give some special shout-outs specifically to, kind of the special thanks folks. But I want to add a couple more special thanks of folks who have kind of helped the channel, either behind the scenes, some of these folks you know about already, who've helped the channel kind of behind the scenes, or flagrantly, right? That can happen as well. So let me pull up the info. So I want to give special thanks first of all to our very own John Longshore, who's here tonight, who's the moderator, and who has helped the channel out with just a ton of different stuff. So I want to say thanks, John, for all your help and support. It really does mean a lot. I also would be remiss in not thanking Dave, who provided me with a couple of very good deals on things like Case Blue. So thanks, Dave. Dave tends to watch these after the live stream. Dave, you know who you are, and who fronted me a copy of the Third Winter after the pre-order situation that we had with Third Winter. So we would literally not have, I mean, I'd have bought it anyway, but we would not have gotten content as quickly as we did without Dave's assistance on that. Also would like to thank Steve from New York City. I think Steve also watches after the fact for the most part, but thank you very much, Steve, for your continued support. There's going to be people who I'm going to feel bad that I left off this discussion. So let's blanket thanks to everybody. I would also like to thank, because he's going to complain about it if I don't mention Fucko, who is the person when I say, hey, this is a buddy unboxing, they're almost always from him. So that has been an enormous assistance, and I've gotten to show you folks video on a lot of stuff that otherwise I would not have been able to do content on because I was not able to buy myself. Which I guess I'll talk about that too. So I talked a little bit last week about, not trying to buy less games, right? Now, this is not really stopping any of the pre-order stuff that's in the pipeline, but there was the other thing where I ended up having to pay quite a lot of money to the government, thanks to a couple of factors, and a lot of it wasn't federal, actually. A lot of it was local. There was this, I owed money to the state too, but this is, for income taxes, that's a thing that happened. Mostly it was actually local taxes because my wife's employer and my employer for most of last year didn't take out local taxes. So we had to basically pay the entire amount out of pocket. That kind of sucked. So I've actually always gotten money back because I don't really want to deal with that. I'm aware that it's like a no-interest loan to the government, whatever. I would just not have to worry about owing money. This year I owed money. It was kind of a lot of money when all of the things happened. So I'm broke is what I'm saying. Frank Shuley, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, bought the original Pacific War, but never got into it as he treated it as a specific game and an operational game. Yeah, see, I think that's a mistake that a lot of people, I don't know about mistake, but I think that's a misunderstanding that a lot of folks had with Pacific War, specifically because it does cover the whole war, and it was kind of put in because that was the expectation, without looking at the very meaty and very large selection of operational scenarios. Marty, that would not have solved this particular problem. So I don't think you can call them charitable contributions. So unfortunately, so let's fix this because we're about to. See if this actually works. It worked. How about that? Cool. So, we're now going to be clipping. We are done with Into the Woods. So, we are now going to be transitioning to another title in the GMT Giant Load, Salerno 43. We're easily going to be able to clip this entire thing tonight, by the way, because it's only one counter sheet. And it's looks like 9/16 inch counter, so it's not even a full counter sheet. I'm going to easily be able to get this in one tray. So thanks to all those people. I also want to thank, let me pull this up too. I want to thank the patrons. The folks that are hidden behind my ugly mug are the folks that I just thanked specifically. So there are still thanks, but I want to thank all of the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair that have really helped me to build the channel. That has been an enormous, assistance money-wise and inspiration, right? Because I have people who are counting on, or not counting on, but you know what I'm saying. That, people who enjoy this content and to whom I want to make sure I do good content for and continue to improve the content. So, while still keeping a roof over my head at the same time. So thanks to all the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair who can be seen on this particular slide. And this is the updated one. The slide, so one reason I used to post the unboxing videos as much as 5 weeks in advance. And I don't do that anymore because what could happen is somebody, becomes a patron and then doesn't see their name on the card for 5 weeks because I haven't updated the card because I can't remake the video, right? And that was part of the video making process. So now I only do it 2 weeks in advance, and I think we're caught up for this Thursday's unboxing video, which is a thing that is actually happening, by the way. I did miss a week. I kind of tend to miss a week if I'm at a convention. Just making sure I'm on the right clipper here. This is the 2.5 millimeter clippers. So I'm trying not to be like our local NPR station that is begging for money all the time. So a lot of people have enjoyed, and Stuka Joe has some playthrough content already on Salerno 43. So my expectations for this thing are real high. As usual, it's probably the smallest of that 7-inch operational series. However, if I sound super gravelly, I'm on a medication that makes me cough. So that's really awkward. And I have, I've got water here. But if I burst out in a coughing fit, that's actually why. And it's not bothering me too much. But it comes up when I talk a lot. And, it's me, so it's happening all the time. So if I sound gravelly, that is why. And I'm not really sure. So traditionally, I sort the Simonich games by turn of entry. Rogue 77, well, stay tuned, because we are going to be giving a pair of clippers away. There's really only one brand of clippers, by the way. That's a simplification. There are some other alternatives. If you want to just use nail clippers, just use nail clippers. They have the advantage of being cheap, but they have the disadvantage of not being particularly consistent. So later we will be giving away a pair of Oregon Laminations clippers. So and we have a game to give away as well. So let me point that out. 2.5 is so. There's some variation in these things, right? Because of the, let's say, lack of consistency in the manufacturing process. These are the TSA hostage clippers, actually. And they're a little squeaky, but basically, actually, although I'm not noticing it tonight, as soon as I say that, they'll start squeaking. I assume these are the entry areas. So I think we're just going to do it that way. Okay, we'll just do it that way. So, I appreciate the 2mm, and I use the 2mm exclusively on half-inch counters. But I also, because I like a tight corner, but I also clip a fair number of games that have, bigger than half-inch counters. So I do have a 2.5. And I have a 3 as well, but honestly, the only time I use a 3 is if I have 1-inch counters, because it really looks, it's too much on a smaller than 1-inch counter, in my opinion. The 3mm is really big. It doesn't feel like 2.5 kind of sits in the middle between 2mm and 3mm. It feels like 2.5 on my clippers, right? They're all different, right? A local buddy's got one of these 2.5mm clipper, and man, it takes a ton. It takes more than this. So there is some variation in these things. Again, because they're manufactured offshore and they're not doing really good metrics and all that. So, but they're still the best clippers. So So Ken X is a 2.5mm man. Very good. As long as you're not one of those barbarians that doesn't clip their counters. The only way that that is acceptable is if you are like Stigler, who doesn't clip his counters because he's going to play it on Vassal, and there's therefore no point in clipping. That's understandable. I do not have a problem with that. But I mean, we're playing a mostly unclipped copy of Third Winter right now, and it's and these were like extracted with a rotary cutter, right? So they don't really have dog ears on them. It still makes it harder to pick the stacks up. Okay, so we're going to try and get in touch with the chat. I spent like 45 minutes trying to get the chat rolled, on-screen chat roll to work. Doesn't work. I don't know why. So I'm going to try not to miss this stuff. I will remind you that we do have Super Chats live, so if you want to like call, your particular question or comment, call my attention to it. Use the Super Chat function, and it will be highlighted on my end, and I cannot miss it. Somebody's asking. So Jason W. So Stigler's just punch and play the game is Stigler doesn't mean it disingenuously, but I think it's not really. There's no real. I don't think there's any sense in that, because my like amount of time spent clipping instead of wargaming is literally zero. Okay, we are clipping counters when I would otherwise be watching television, right? So. While clipping, the only reason I managed to get through an episode of that terrible Halo show was because I was clipping counters. That's actually how I got most of the markers for Into the Woods done, was clipping while watching that. And had it not been for clipping, that show would have been completely intolerable. So, because it's bad. It's bad. Michael Potts asks about the Aegis counter trays. Yes. I have tried the Aegis counter trays. There will be a video coming out about the Aegis counter trays on Wednesday. So in the meantime, Mo has done a video on the Aegis counter trays, and Mo did a really good job. He did all the measuring and counted counters and all that stuff. I thought I was going to be super OCD about it, and Mo was more OCD than me. Marco also did a video on the Aegis counter trays. They sent him some as well. Marco kind of phoned it in my opinion. I love Marco. He phoned it in on that thing. He's like, yeah, they're bigger. That's nice. I'm exaggerating slightly, but not by very much. Marco's video is like 4 minutes long. Mo's video is very exhaustive. My video is not as exhaustive as Mo, but I actually measured all the compartments. And you'll see the differences, and I actually also compared them to the Chessex trays as well. So stay tuned for that. I do just, if you don't want to watch the video, I do like the Aegis trays. They are very nice. I'm going to try to, right now you can't get to GMT trays, can you? So I guess I'm using the Aegis trays. My literal last free GMT tray is what Salerno 43 here is going into. So... I did put a link to the Aegis trays. You could just go to Flying Buffalo's website and find them. So I'm not going to put the link in the show tonight, but there will be a link in the video description of the video about the Aegis trays on Wednesday. So just stay tuned for that. So especially with the, I was clipping with nail clippers for a long time, right? For probably 20 years. And I found that even then, and I had a specific pair of clippers that I would use. It's not like it was different toenail clippers every week. I had a specific set, and even then I found that my consistency was not where I wanted to be. Even where my goal was to take just the tiniest amount of corner off, I would end up, clipping a big corner on something and then have to reclip the other corners to make it match, and it was messy, and it was inconsistent. So since then, I went with I have a video on counter clippers if you want to see the whole load of, what's available and all that stuff. So check that out. Stigler, I am a puffy-shirted, manly man. So where do I fit into that into that taxonomy? Let's see. So since we started talking about TV, I had about a 2-minute slot on TV mentioned that I guess talk about. I watched the Batman, which is now streaming on HBO Max, where they really make it confusing to resubscribe to that thing. I don't know that it's as good as I had heard people were saying it was, but it's pretty good, and I did like it. So check that out if you're into that kind of thing. I actually wrote this stuff down. I talked about Halo and how it's just kind of bad. It's even the graphics are the visuals are not that great. I'm kind of watching it to see the titular halos themselves, which are Banks orbitals, or little mini ring worlds if you like, and that seems like a really cool visual. I'm waiting for us to see that. We did see it on one of the episodes of the Boba Fett show, but we had to deal with the Boba Fett show to see that. So there's that, and it felt like a really tiny ring world, and that kind of structure does not make sense in Star Wars. So, the Batman the Batman movie is very deliberately paced. That did not bother me, but then again, I've had a lot of caffeine today. So, the thing that I am watching that I am enjoying the most is the literal actual thing that I would have 3 months ago before I started whenever it was before I started watching it, I would have instantly said, boy, that's not for me and I'm not going to like that. It's a newish HBO show called Winning Time about the LA Lakers. I don't even like basketball. The show is absolutely fantastic. I literally resubscribed to HBO Max to watch that show, and it is worth every penny. It's just fantastic. Somebody called it like Boogie Nights without the porn, and that's kind of an accurate assessment. If you kind of liked the sort of late 70s, early 80s atmosphere of Boogie Nights, but found the subject matter distasteful, you might find this very appealing. And if you're into basketball, I'm not even into basketball, and it's really good. It is also non-hagiographical, by which I mean it does not strike a worshipful tone of any of the very large figures that participated in those events, with the possible exception of Jeannie Buss, who, if you know who Jeannie Buss is, she's the current owner of the LA Lakers, who's the daughter of Jerry Buss, who's masterfully played by John C. Reilly in the show. But that's early. She's just kind of a blank canvas as a character. She's a blank canvas to start the show off with. Nobody else comes off as a perfect individual, even though almost everybody is fairly likable, except those people in Boston. Oh, what villains they are. Just fantastic villainization of the Celtics and the Celtics fans. If the show is hagiographical, which is like a hagiography was like the life of a saint, where you portray this person as beyond reproach, right? It's of the team, the Lakers. It is impossible. I find it impossible to watch the show and not root for the team. Not necessarily the current Lakers, about which I could care absolutely less, but the Lakers back in '79 and '80, which is when the show starts. It's like 7 episodes, I think, of 10 in. So I'm enjoying it very much, even though I did not expect that I was going to. And since I'm subscribed, I might try to watch The Wire again. Anyway, let's try and catch up here. John Longshore appears to like Gotham. I saw like 1 or 2 episodes of that and it was not working for me. So I'm not making any statement about fans in Boston, okay? I'm just saying the show marvelously villainizes them. Oh, what dicks they are. It's just fantastic. So, Now, when I say all the characters are likable, I mean all the characters on the Lakers. Like, you get to see Larry Bird for the first time in the latest episode. Boy, is Larry Bird portrayed as a dick. So, anyway, Wargaming Communities is what we have here. You are participating, Jason W., in a Wargaming community by coming here every week. So I actually do kind of want to talk about that a little bit, because I don't want to just talk about me the whole time. That's lame. Kind of what we've done here, and I do mean we, right? Not just me. What's this? Oh, that's a breakdown. Everybody that stops by the stream or comments on the video or subscribes to the channel or whatever is fundamentally a participant in the Ardwulf's Lair experience, right? And this is true of every other, YouTube channel that you might follow, whether it's a Wargaming YouTube channel or whatever. I mean, people invest in these things, and the fact that, there's 140 people right now watching, apparently, certainly sounds like folks are investing in it, and thank you. So we do have, and we've reached the point now where folks come to me and say, hey, I live in Butte, Montana. Where can I find local wargamers? I mean, I give some ideas as to strategies, but I don't. There are some locations which we've largely mentioned, like the Triangle area, or Minneapolis, St. Paul, or New York City, where I could say, go look these people up. Because they're doing what you're looking for. So there are some locations like that, or there's a local convention or whatever. The show, Michael Jordan's like a kid when the show happens. So, and the Laimbeer era Pistons. Oh, I loved Bill Laimbeer. What a dick! What a dick that guy was. I loved Bill Laimbeer. That was later than this period too. So, and there's some characters in the show, like Adrian Brody plays Pat Riley, for example. When you start thinking like Adrian Brody, Pat Riley, really? And it totally works. It totally works. So what I'm trying to say here is, I am more than happy to kind of help people put. Oops, is that a 5 or a 6? That's a 6. I'm more than happy to help give advice where I can, even if I have been less awesome at responding to people immediately. I do have, I do get back to folks eventually. Now, golf I have even less interest in than I do in basketball. I have never been into golf. You enjoy golf, good for you. But, I have enough boring hobbies, thank you. I am good. Laimbeer was a punk. The other guy I loved back in the day, because he was also a punk, was Charles Barkley. Oh, the mouth on that guy. Oh, I loved it when they would play the Pistons. Absolute thuggery. Ohio is, in fact, the weather here was beautiful yesterday. I got the grass cut so rodents broke into the shed and ate the seat of my lawnmower. So I have had to procure, and this is another thing that I had to spend money on, and replacement lawnmower seats are really friggin' expensive. So I have to deal with the rodent problem, and with the fact I had to order a lawnmower seat, which ought to be here in a couple of days. So I got the generic one, which hopefully will work instead of the almost $300 actual part from Troy Build. Yes, Barkley is still a big, we'll call him a larger-than-life character. Love Charles Barkley. Not to say that Charles has been, I agree with Charles about everything. That's not what that means. But just the lip on that guy. Wow. So there was an episode of, I believe it was Saturday Night Live, where it's like a Star Wars skit, and the shtick of the skit is that everybody speaks every language except for, and it's a Star Wars skit, right? So they're people, dressed as Star Wars type characters, but they're not like the Star Wars type characters, right? They're characters in Star Wars, but not the specific characters from the movies. So the joke, and as a linguistics and conlang guy, I found this actually funny on its own right. But the funniest thing about the whole skit is Jedi Master Charles Barkley. Okay, they put Charles Barkley in as the Jedi Master, who doesn't speak any of the languages, and I thought it was hilarious. Oh, it's an airplane. Look at that. We got airplanes in this thing too. So, I think we're going to be able to organize. We'll have an allied units at start box compartment and an Axis units at start compartment, and then we will sort all the rest of the stuff by turn of entry. That is how I sorted Normandy 44, and it worked really well, and that's how I have tended to sort these Simonich games. It's helpful that that information is on the counter, which is not always the case, but it is in this case. The turn of entry or the hex, the setup hex, is on the counter. So, very useful. Wayne Hansen, thanks for stopping by. Wayne himself has a channel. You should go check that out. He's done some excellent content. Alrighty then. Ohio and Michigan are like Ohio and Kentucky. Ohio is kind of like Michigan bred with Kentucky. Okay? So, who are we kidding, right? So, John C. from the sunny Philippines is here. He says, too sunny. Well, there could be too sunny. I don't think there's any such thing as too sunny here in Ohio. There certainly is such a thing as too humid. Or too hot, but not too sunny. I like sunshine, personally. They may, Palelu's 99. First of all, welcome back. And yes, it may have been chipmunks. I think it was groundhogs, actually. Because it's made out of this, foam. This, hard, I don't know if it's a closed cell foam or not. I kind of think it's not. But, that they use to nest. So I could put repellent of some kind on it. But I fundamentally need to fix the problem where the rodents are getting into the shed. So, which means I have to refloor the shed. It's a steel shed, so I can, in principle, build a new wooden frame foundation for it because it's not on a pad. I recognize that it would be a better solution to put on a concrete pad, but I got to get a permit for that. Build a new wooden frame out of actual, moisture-proof lumber, and then I can literally unbolt it from the current rotted-ass frame and get about 4 people, pick it up, go put it on the new frame, and bolt it back down, and we should be good. So I got about 0.6 acres, so I got a big enough yard that it would be a pain to not have a rider. Jim L. enjoyed driving on I-80 through Ohio last week. So, well, you had to pay the toll, or at least parts of it you don't, actually. Parts of it are not Ohio Turnpike, but a lot of it is. Turn 10. But it's the best maintained road and highway in Ohio, I think. John Keyboard says Ardwulf, Wayne, and Mo and early Marco got him into the hobby. That is fantastic, and I'm very happy to hear that. Why did I suddenly become congested? That's very irritating. Jason LaRiviere compares the Midwest to the Balkans. One of the nice things, I actually enjoy cutting the grass. I mean, I have a riding lawnmower, so it's, it's kind of nice. But it probably does need new tires. I know it needs an oil change. And I don't know what that is. And I've had to replace a couple other things on it, which have not been a super big deal. Marty, there's parts of Ohio highways that look like that too. I mean, I think Akron. I always make fun of Akron, where my wife's family lives, by the way, that their roads are exceptionally bad up there, and I think they do. I think that is true. I don't drink enough scotch for it to be a problem, actually. I think it's fine, because I've really, all the scotch I drink gets drunk during this show. I mean, every once in a while I'll have, like, a scotch outside the show, but I really never drink more than that. I drank, like, 4 beers, I think, at Winterfest, and that was, like, the most beer I had. That's, like, as much beer as I've had in the preceding 4 years put together, so... I talk a lot about alcoholic consumption. I don't really actually consume all that much alcohol, to be honest. I haven't been through Toledo in a while. We went through Toledo early last fall, I think. When we were driving up to Detroit, actually. And I don't recall it being as bad as Akron, but... So, I will be getting to deal with those Pittsburgh roads at some point when we drive through Pittsburgh on our way to WBC in June or July or whenever it is. I think it's July. I am also working with someone on a banner, one of those, like the Player's Aid has. Those bastards at the Player's Aid. I was like, I had been thinking about that, and I have not been happy on any of the, like, designs I've come up with, which are all crap. So, Tony from Tony's Board Life lives in Toledo. I mean, is it worse than Akron? I don't know. I mean, it's what Toledo, along with Youngstown, are the 2 armpits of Ohio, I've always said. But Toledo's kind of Metro Detroit, right? And is, a post-industrial wasteland for a lot of the same reasons as Detroit. The rest of Detroit Metro. So it's a little different than, say, the other side of Ohio, which is Youngstown, which is, was another hub for the automotive industry, but not so much now. So, P Turnpike is pretty expensive. Wayne says he traded an expansion for a game to Judd Vance for 2 6-packs of Kansas beer. Not sure if that's a good idea. Good idea or not. Depends on the expansion. Palelu 99 says worst roads in the U.S. that he'd ever seen were in Oklahoma. When I was driving around in Oklahoma last year, I can vouch that the roads were fairly bad. So. And that was in the Oklahoma City area, and it was actually not last year, but the year before, thinking about it. The other thing I've been playing, in my copious free time, is the Elder Scrolls Online. So there were some not giveaways, but incentives to pre-order that were about to expire, so I pre-ordered and got to get the mount and the pet and all that other nonsense. Pre-ordered the expansion, that is, which is actually coming out in June. And the expansion content, I'm curious to see. I expect it to be pretty good. The card game, like the digital card game that's going to be included as like the new mechanic for the expansion, I am not excited about at all. So there's a thing there. But the thing is, because I pre-ordered it, I started fiddling around with it again. And by fiddling around, I kind of mean logging in to get the daily rewards and maybe run writs, which are like trade skill quests, which can be fairly lucrative if you keep doing them. But over the last 4 or 5 days, and I think yesterday is when I actually managed to play. I actually played, right? I actually went out and did stuff. And I had fun, so... Let's get some water. Strigler, I'm not sure how we got onto roads. Probably because we have not been super directed. William Aarons, thank you so much. Will I be attending any of the Connections online seminars or events happening this week? So there are a couple of those. Watch the video that we did with Brant a few days ago, and you'll kind of see which ones I was interested in. Unfortunately, because Connections is a professional event, it's during the week, and my weekdays are all spoken for, and that's the problem. And my weekends are mostly spoken for, except for Saturday, which we planned stuff for last Saturday that didn't happen because we then needed to chill after a very busy week. So unfortunately, no, but there will be some things that I watch after the fact in broadcasts. So, but thanks so much. Doug Sunset says that New Mexico is really beautiful, which I am completely prepared to believe. And I also am completely prepared to believe that the food is probably excellent. Marty Sample talks about Boston driving. So this was actually something I was talking about at work not too long ago. We here in sort of these mid-sized metropolitan areas like Cleveland and Columbus and Milwaukee and places like that really have a very stilted idea of what bad traffic is like, right? If you've driven in New York City, or New York City's is kind of a special case, right? But like Atlanta or LA or someplace like that, man, we got nothing on that. That traffic is way worse than anything we see. So Boston, I've never been to Boston. I am prepared to believe that the traffic in Boston is fairly bad. So, and also the roads are maintained by Celtics fans. So that may be a factor too, according to the writers of Winning Time. So there's that. Jeff Beeler says that one time coming home from Columbus, he took 275 to 696 to avoid roadworks on I-75. I mean, that just makes sense, if that is an option that is available to you. Jason LaRiviere mentions that Eisenhower created the interstate highway system for the express purpose of Cold War logistics. Yes, that was a major consideration. The fact that it would be good for the public was nice, but the interstate highways were a national defense priority as well. New York City traffic is horrible, but it's, like I said, it's honestly, I'm not sure that traffic anywhere else compares to it, right? I have driven in New York City, and it's fairly bad. I mean, if you're not very aggressive, you are not going to get anywhere, much less where you are trying to go. So, parking in New York City is a horror, and if you can avoid it in New York City, you should probably just not have a car. And again, I'm not sure how people can afford, like anybody can afford to live in New York City anyway, so... So, yeah, John, the latest episode dropped last night, and I watched it, like, not live, but I stayed up till about 12:30 watching it, because I watched it and then immediately watched it again. And I sped through a few parts, but I pretty much watched the whole episode again. So, fantastic show, if you're into that. So, yeah, Marty, that's where I was going with that. If you live in New York City, I don't know how anybody can afford to live in New York City unless you're like a millionaire. But if you do live in New York City, you can easily get away with not having a car. And if you need to go up to wherever outside the city, which you almost never need to do unless you're going on vacation, you can rent a car, right? Parking in New York City every month costs what a car payment would be, so... DC Metro traffic is horrendous from what I hear. I've really only experienced the periphery of that, but everybody seems to agree that it is in fact horrid. Stigler, literally like 2 million people a day are on that mass transit system, and that somebody got shot every once in a while is statistically not significant. John Longshore says, if you can take Amtrak, I completely agree. Doug's talking about LA traffic. Now, I've actually never been to LA, so I'm relying on stories from people who've been to LA. And my understanding is it's quite terrible. All right, we're gonna put stuff in the tray. Tabletop's Edge, thanks for stopping by. Well, it was certainly significant to the people that got shot. I will certainly agree with that. All I'm saying is, statistically, is it more likely to get killed in a subway than you are on the street? I'm not sure you are. That's what I'm saying. Now, I haven't been to New York City in quite a while. It was very clean and orderly and tidy when I was there, but that has been a while. So I don't know what the state of the place is now. Well, oops. So we are, I guess we'll do that. Most of this stuff, breakdowns and stuff, yeah, we're going to easily be able to get this in the... John Larcher says that for Napoleon, crossing the Berezina was a traffic nightmare. For those who don't know, that was a river crossing that I think the big hero of the I don't want to misstate it. So it was a famous river crossing in the Napoleonic Wars. Let me put it that way. So. Minute Taylor says, Amtrak, you can walk there faster 7 hours from Fort Wayne to Chicago. That seems excessive to me, I gotta admit. But, Amtrak is also relatively far more comfortable than taking a plane. Tony Mal, finally back to Wargames. Thank you, Tony, for bringing us back to Wargames. Tony asks, is Salerno 43 only a similar scenario? I believe there is a regular scenario and a short scenario, but given that it is... and the short scenario is just the regular scenario, it just doesn't run as many turns. That's actually kind of typical for the Simonich operational stuff. But these aren't like huge footprint games, right? I mean, you're not... with the possible exception of Ardennes 44 that might take you a whole weekend to play through, by and large, these things can be played in a sitting or so, or even if it's a long sitting. And this one specifically is very tight. I mean, there's not that many pieces. There's, like I said, there's literally one counter sheet, and only about 2/3 of it is units. So it's very, and that doesn't all start on the map either. So Doug's mentions Amtrak for, well, yeah. So if you're like going cross country, you're really better off taking a plane because of that, because it's a whole day, right, to take the train rather than just to get on a flight. But then again, I flew up to Connecticut and I could have driven in the amount of time that it took me. That wasn't in the air time, but that was time spent sitting around in airports with my thumb in my ass, waiting for delayed flights and all that. I was there all day. And by the time, I was 9 hours. I was exhausted by the time I got there. So I might as well... Amtrak wouldn't have been a good alternative for that particular trip, but driving would have been. So, Yeah, so this Salerno game is the projected first in a 3-game series on a good chunk of the Italian campaign. We Americans tend to be fairly comfy with driving. An 8-hour drive is like, yeah, that's an inconvenience, but and I'm not exaggerating this. An 8-hour drive is starting to become longer than I want to drive. Certainly, if it's just me and if it's all day. But like the Baltimore area where we went for Winter Offensive, it's like a 6-hour drive. That's not bad, right? And maybe if you have somebody to switch off with, that's better. But 8 hours is in one day, I think is okay, as long as you're taking the whole day to do it. As long as you're relaxing into that and not, I gotta make it there in exactly 8 hours and getting uptight about it. Then you're gonna have a miserable time. So, Ronald Nicholson, also from Central Ohio, has been playing Salerno 43 most of today. Outstanding. Europe, we're getting into like a public transportation policy discussion here now that I am really not the guy to talk about. I mean, of course I have an opinion about this because I have an opinion about everything, but I'm not necessarily going to claim that opinion is particularly well informed on the subject of transportation policy. So it's nice when public transportation is a reasonable alternative. And I guess I don't mean public transportation. I mean mass transportation. I mean not driving. Or flying, because I hate flying. It's not that I hate flying, it's that I hate being on an airplane because of the discomfort of the being on an airplane experience. I've heard fairly bad things about the food on the Amtrak trains, but I mean they don't even give you food on a plane anymore. You might get a bag of pretzels if you're lucky. We drove, and it's like an 18-hour drive. We drove it in one day, and I drove like 80% of it from San Jose to Seattle, and it sucked. It was a terrible experience, and I will never do that again. I will either fly, or I will take at least 2 and possibly 3 days to make the trip. That was not this Seattle trip, by the way. That was a Seattle trip that we did years and years ago. It was a terrible idea. So Ronald Nicholson, you're probably thinking of Otto Skorzeny and the Grief teams or Greif teams, and their impact was, let's say they didn't have a lot of impact on the battle. That was kind of one of the things that they were sent in to do, and they did a little bit of that. And they also led to one of my personal favorite stories about the Battle of the Bulge, which was that rumors started to go around, maybe planted by Skorzeny's guys, that one of Skorzeny's guys, because they knew they were doing this, was the spitting image of Field Marshal Montgomery. So the actual Field Marshal Montgomery's Jeep or whatever vehicle pulls up to a checkpoint, and the American GI doesn't believe that it's Montgomery, and Montgomery, being Montgomery, refuses to produce identification because how dare this insignificant peasant accuse him of not being Montgomery. So they detained Montgomery for several hours in a barn until some American captain could come, who had met Montgomery, could come by and positively identify him. And Montgomery was apparently incandescent with rage by the end of it. Eisenhower later said that the finest contribution to the entire war effort that was ever made by Otto Skorzeny, or something like that, was supposedly having a guy that looked like Montgomery. So, yeah, John, you're stuck. You got to fly. Sorry about that. Mo from Mo's Game Table has stopped by. Thanks, Mo, for stopping by. I have already directed folks to your clock-beating video on the Aegis counter trays. I will have mine up on Wednesday. Marty says that Skorzeny's brigade is almost always OP in Bulge games in terms of avoiding Zocs. I mean, the impact of that unit was you could just really ignore it based on the amount of impact that it had. You could either ignore it or just kind of fold its effects into other rules, like the roadblock rules and road congestion rules in Ardennes 44, for example. Not much of a problem. Drew Detterer, that's a different story. I don't know if that was Bradley, but but that would be a typically American story. That's a different story, though. Are we talking somehow? I've missed the mention of the 1985 games from Thin Red Line. So there's a second printing of Deadly Northern Lights, which is the Scandinavia game that's now available for pre-order. And it looks like, unlike really all the other reprints that they've done, there's actually a lot of changes. And I don't know if there's going to be an update kit or not. I have the original printing, and I'm really disinclined to chase a second copy. So I'm hoping for an update kit. If not, I don't want to spend the money on another copy of it right now. Let me put it that way. Yeah, never ask Americans graduates of the American educational system questions about friggin' geography, man. It is not a thing that we teach well in this country. That is a well-known phenomenon. John, I'm reasonably sure that there's wargamers up there. So if any wargamers are up there in the Royal Oak, Michigan neighborhood, you can let me know, and I can get a hold of John. I don't like to give out people's email addresses without their explicit okay, because that usually is not a problem, but can be a bad thing to do. So don't want to make anybody uncomfortable. All right, so apparently there will be... Carl says there's no update kit for Deadly Northern Lights, and he is not happy about it. Fuck. That may be why I've seen several copies of Deadly Northern Lights hit the market lately. Yeah, my wife would not be pleased with I am giving her all of my war games. All right, we are going to start... We're going to do a giveaway here. And again... we're going to use the old method tonight because that's what I got. So we're going to have people pick numbers in a second. Don't start putting numbers in yet. Complain to Fabrizio. So we are going to have a bunch of giveaways. There will be 2 this evening, one of which is a game, and the other of which is an expansion for a game at least. And the other of which is going to be a counter clipper, which we'll do in like the last 20 minutes or so. So, for those who want Combat Volume 2, this is a huge expansion. It's really freaking heavy. I mean, this box is like solid stuff. Combat Volume 2, this is not standalone, so you need to have the original Combat to use it. You can run a copy of that down, I believe, without too much trouble. So we will be giving away this copy of Combat. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to call for people to speak up in the chat in a minute here. If you're in the U.S., I will cover shipping. If you are not in the U.S., I will ask you to split shipping 50-50 with me. So this, folks who are not in the U.S. can qualify for this stuff. And hopefully, if we each pay 50%, then it will merely be expensive to ship and not ruinous. If you win, you will send an email to Ardwulf's Lair at gmail.com. All one word, no apostrophe or anything like that. So send an email to ardwolfslair at gmail.com with your, hey, tell me what you want and give me your address, and we will get it out to you. Probably we'll try to ship this weekend. The shipping on the weekend is I can usually do it on Friday, actually. So we can manage to do that. So I will have everybody interested put in a number between 1 and 100 into the chat. If you're into Combat Volume 2, numbers between 1 and 100. Okay, good. We got at least one taker, so somebody will win a copy of Combat Volume 2. Combat, the game has... I know there were some issues with the printing on, I think, the counter sheets in the first printing, but otherwise the game has gotten some pretty good... let me put it this way. Some folks whose opinions I respect have spoken highly of it, so... and here's Volume 2, a rather massive expansion. I believe they have a Volume 3 in the works as well, but that'll happen. So your first number that you put in is the number I'm actually going to look at. So, can we... And I'm going to go over... Now, I'll let this run for another, 10 counters or so here. And folks can enter their numbers. We don't need tons and tons and tons of time. And then hopefully next week we can have a little more scientific giveaway. Like I said, there's a way to do it in StreamYard, but StreamYard is $50 a month to do the StreamYard that makes sense for me. So, and I'm reluctant to do that. I'd like something that just works through OBS. Would be optimal. Even if it's like Streamlabs or something like that, or Stream, what's that thing called? I forget. Stream Effects or Streamlabs or Stream Elements. Stream Elements is what I use. Mo says that multiple expansions for combat are on the way, and Mo would know. Volume. It's a solitaire system, right? And it doesn't actually look like much like Ambush to me, but the issue there may be a gap in my understanding of Ambush, because I've never owned Ambush and I've never played it. I only know that folks seemed to have liked it. But I believe it was paragraph-based, and this is not paragraph-based. This is like design a scenario through the use of random tables type of thing. It's pretty neat looking. I did an unboxing of it, so check that out if you're interested. It's packed solid with stuff. All right, I am about to call an end to the dibs. If you want it, put your number in. A number between 1 and 100. And I know that there's a delay in the audio, so I want to give it a couple minutes. I have an inquiry out with somebody that knows more about this stuff than I do, even though you'd think you'd be able to find this, but I mean, what do you search for? I didn't find anything that worked. I did find things that would work for static videos, but not for live streams. Not for live streams on YouTube. So, John C. says that Ambush and Combat are very different. He has played both. Frank says that Montreal is so much better than Toronto. I'm certainly prepared to... I mean, I've never been to either one. I've been to Ontario, but not Toronto. Certainly, Montreal has a reputation as a very nice food city, and I'd be into that. So I'd love to go to Montreal at some point. All right, we are done with dibs. I am going to pull up random.org from 1 to 100. We're going to push the button. We have number 26. Nobody has guessed number 26. We're going to roll another number. 62. Oh, we got 62s. All right. The first 62 is Patrick from Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials. However, two other folks, Frank Ciuli and Half-Ass Gaming, had their 62s as well. So, I didn't think of this. I should have thought of this. Whether we should, in fact... Well, we're going to have another giveaway. So the first number 62 is going to win. So Patrick from Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials, please send me an email at ardwulfslair@gmail.com and give me your address, and we will get Combat Volume 2 out to you. There will be more giveaways, so sorry for the latecomers, and hopefully we'll be able to actually pick a random name with the way it's going to work next time, I hope, without me paying $50 for StreamYard. And once they want you to pay yearly in StreamYard too, which kind of commits you to StreamYard for the year. And it's almost $500 to pay for a year of StreamYard at the discounted rate. So it's quite expensive. So thank you, patrons, for even putting that on the table. But we might do it next week. We'll see, or maybe I'll just do it. Maybe we'll just do it 7:20 next week. We'll see what happens. So thanks everybody for entering. All right, yeah, Patrick, if you want to do videos on Combat Volume 2, that would be awesome. So we'll do a giveaway of a clipper in about half an hour or so, and that's actually easier for me to deal with because I can literally do it tonight and have it shipped to you. Oh, one thing I didn't check. Let me pull this back up. Let me make sure that these things are available right now. Wow, there's a 10 millimeter. That's crazy. All right, so you're going to get to pick your radius too. So when we do the corner rounder giveaway. If, by the way, somebody doesn't get a hold of me by like the end of the week, I'm going to redraw the thing. That's never happened, but I figured I would say that. So congratulations to Patrick, who has a great channel that you should all be subscribed to anyway, which is, mostly, but not exclusively, Great Campaigns of the American Civil War, but you should all be playing Great Campaigns of the American Civil War anyway, assuming you are into Civil War at all. So, my my sister's in-laws are actually from Boston, and so they go up there periodically. I've always said if you're going to get one clipper, get the 2.5 because it's the most versatile. It clips. It doesn't look too big on a 1/2-inch counter, and it doesn't look too small on a 5/8-inch counter, and on a 9/16-inch counter, which kind of is in between anyway. It still looks good. So what do we got for folks here? Looks like we topped out at 147, which is pretty good. So, and we got 138 right now. So more giveaways coming, and we'll do more. Again, there will be more giveaways next week, and depending on how much stuff I have to give away, there might be more giveaways the week after that too. So. Do I really have to say integers? Do I really have to say integers? I did finally figure out how to just do a search of the chat rather than having to manually try and eyeball the numbers. So that's slightly better, but I would also rather it be totally automated. So, and then we can do giveaways more often too. Oh, Brian Foley tested positive for COVID, so that's no good. I've had it at least twice, and I fortunately have been lucky to get away with basically no symptoms. I mean, I lost my sense of taste and smell, but a lot of other people have been less fortunate in the COVID department. So, I'll be honest. So, this is not. I'm trying to not be hyperbolic about this because sometimes we get to hyperbole. I strongly prefer not to play a game with unrounded counters. Now, does that always matter? No, it doesn't. Because, let's face it, if it's like Civilization, right? Avalon Hill Civilization, who cares? I don't really care for a game like that. But like a war game with hexes, unless the counters, the hexes are oversized, it's just way more comfortable to play with rounded corners that don't get caught on everything. All right. Now, see, I feel like the Aegis trays would be way too spacious for this because, boy, those compartments would just have a lot of air in them. I think the GMT trays. I mean, is that stupid? That might be stupid. I mean, complaining that there's too much room in the tray. I don't know, but I guess I'm looking at it from right now. I have stock on Aegis trays and not on GMT trays. So, but it still sounds kind of stupid. Okay, we managed. Oh, no, that's we're at number 8. All right. We are basically done with Salerno 43. I've clipped every counter. Yeah, lots of folks from New England here, and Massachusetts specifically. So I've started listening to, because I ran out of Russian Revolution shows, started listening to the Revolutions podcast. I've mentioned this before, but I started with the Russian Revolution, which is like the current season, if you will. That's still going, but I'm driving to work twice a week and not once a week, and it's about a podcast commute either way. So I dialed it back to the beginning, and he started the show with English Civil War, which I got to tell you, I know virtually nothing about the English Civil War. So I won't pretend that I retained all that information. But I do, I'll retain a little bit of it, right? And if I decide to get into English, how many English Civil War games do I have? Not very many. It is covered by Musket and Pike. So, and one of the 2 games in the Musket and Pike dual pack is on English Civil War. So this Accursed Civil War is about that Accursed Civil War, right? So, yes, I am out of GMT. This was literally the last GMT tray. I probably have a couple of loose ones that I can scrape together with, kind of crap lids or something like that. But more likely, those are just going to end up in the garbage. Nicholas Oliver asks, first of all, thank you so much for the super chat. Do I think there is something missing from the wargaming community on YouTube or certain content that we could use more of? Sure, we could use more curated playthrough content and tutorial videos. However, those are the 2 hardest types of videos to do well. There's a reason why I have done as little as I have, because it becomes a very editing, and it either becomes a very editing intensive process to do playthrough content, or it is very stream of consciousness, and like Callendale, and you're kind of watching for Callendale, right, and not necessarily watching for the game content at that point. So it is. The Dollar Tree trays are really nice, but there are many games, including a lot of the games I have and buy, that like heavy hex and counter games tend not to work well with the Dollar Tree trays. Let me put it that way. They tend to work better with the GMT trays or now the Aegis trays. So there's that. The other thing is, if you try to do playthrough content or tutorial content, the tutorial content's a little different, because like for the OCS thing, right, which I'm still working on, I have like people I can go to say, here is the script, okay, because I wrote a script for the first 2 episodes. And I can send it to somebody and say, look this over and tell me if there are any mistakes in it. So I can get people to double check it. But for like playthrough videos, people get super bitchy about rules mistakes. And I empathize with the fact that you'd rather not see the rules mistakes. But even the mistake is giving you, the viewer, valuable information. You're getting a message that says this rule is confusing, right? And I don't want to downplay the seriousness of the rules mistakes, but at the same time, as a content creator, I can get super pissy about somebody who's constantly bitching. I pulled a lot of my OCS bootcamp videos because some fucking dickhead came in and was constantly, like, literally 10 comments came in one day. Oh, you got this wrong. You got this wrong. You got this wrong. And some of those things were not actually, I was not actually wrong. Okay. I got pissed about it, and I pulled the video down. I'm like, okay, fine. Nobody can have it now. Now, is that the right answer? No, that's not the right answer. But it's discouraging when you do playthrough content for Mr. Douche Nugget to come in and just bitch until you don't want to do that kind of content anymore. Okay, and in doing that kind of content is a major investment, okay, in terms of time, in terms of, you know, the mental bandwidth that I have to invest in that kind of content. Every time somebody just go, that's not to say that you can't point out a rules error. You can. You just gotta make it a point to not be a cock about it. And I'm okay with that, right? You know, this particular individual was a cock about it, so off we go. And I mean, I had other OCS bootcamp videos up by that point too. So, you know, you know, people got to be understanding about that. Now, if it's a tutorial video and somebody completely mischaracterizes a rule, that's a little bit different. But there's a difference between playthrough content and tutorial content. The other thing is that a lot of playthrough content is really difficult to watch. Honestly, it's a little difficult to watch because it's just taking way too long. I did like OCS playthrough content. It's garbage. It's bad content. Because OCS has just too much downtime. Even a lot of the live play stuff that we did with GCACW and other stuff like that is hard content to watch because we did it live. It's not edited. And so there's a lot of like humming and hawing, I gotta look this rule up and that kind of stuff. And that really slows the pace down. If you're doing that solo and you can edit all that dead time out, then you can turn that into some good content, but that takes a ton of time. And it's discouraging to invest that time. It discourages one from investing in that time if some asswipe is going to come in and just bitch. So, anyway, let's see if you've all unsubscribed now. Yep, you've all unsubscribed now. The Squareheads versus the Cavaliers. They call them the Squareheads? Okay. I mean, everybody makes mistakes playing these games. We make mistakes all the time. It happens. You just roll with that, right? So, my camera is focused on Pacific. That's probably because Pacific War is the brightest thing in frame. So, and I have a tendency to lean this way. And you might see the weird little edge there. That's the edge of the non-functional chat overlay. So we'll just turn that off. Anyway. So, I mean, it takes a lot of time to do a vassal module too. It's the same type of thing, right? I mean, like I said, I appreciate feedback, valuable feedback, but at the same time, I can't fix a video that I already put up, right? So, and you can address, if it's a series, you can address it with, you can address it with, you know, in the next video, and I've seen people do that, and I've done that with playthrough stuff. Michael Mellon says that he recently watched a Pendragon live stream tutorial and playthrough. The corrections were given right away, and that was cool. I mean, that's great, but if that's, you know, if you have like a person like handy to do that, that's even better. So, you know, if you got Morgana on the line, you know, that can offer the rules corrections on the spot, that's totally okay. So, I don't want to. At the same time, I don't want to get hung up about it. So there was some behind the channel drama. This was quite a few years ago now, actually, but it was post Wargaming. This was like in the Ardwulf Lair Wargaming area where there was some behind the channel drama that happened, and I'm not going to give you names, but there was some. It wasn't a big deal in retrospect, and you know, I knew that at the time, but I found something that was said hurtful, and honestly, it really dissuaded from me from making content for like 4 months. Right? I mean, this was, like I said, this was like at least 6 or 7 years ago now. I just got super down about it, and it took my joy in you know, making content away. And that's a big deal, right? You got to like what you do here. I mean, it's not like any of us are making enough money to make a living on this. So you've got to like what you're doing enough to keep doing it. And if what something takes that away, then boy, it's a big disincentive to keep making content. That's what I'm trying to say. Just don't be an asshole. So now, I mean, you can shrug it off too, and if you got my admiration if you can shrug 100% of it off, and a lot of it I can shrug off, right? There's a lot of little somebody puts a knucklehead comment in there, and I'll say, man, this guy's a knucklehead, and that'll be the end of it, right? So Stigler says he's reminded about how a relatively poor grasp of the rules, the GBACW rules. That's a fiddly system, though. I mean, there's a lot of little fiddly bits in that. You really want to play that. I mean, this is no less true of OCS, okay? But we play it. We play it literally once or twice a week. So we eventually, and we still have questions. We had stupid questions came up last Thursday. I'm like, man, we're overthinking this. We really shouldn't be. The rules don't say that. We're totally making that up. We're totally overthinking this, and we ended up wasting 10 minutes looking some rule up that we all knew how it worked. So anyway, Block Oddity says most rules aren't perfect anyhow. Yeah, that's completely true. Jeff Beeler says he's enjoying Wise Guy History's U.S. Civil War replays. Yes, those are very good. I am enjoying those as well. Chuck Turner, thanks. Hey, Chuck, thanks for stopping by. I mean, particularly a lot of GBACW is not that fiddly, but some of the mode stuff is fairly fiddly. When I say mode, I guess I mean orders. And some of the line of sight rules are pretty fiddly, I gotta tell you. So GBACW is a complex system, right? I think it's rewarding. I think it's worth people's time if you decide that you're just not willing to deal with a Civil War system that's that complicated. There are alternatives. Line of Battle is maybe not quite as complicated, but it's still pretty fiddly. Blind Swords, if you're looking for a fairly robust, detailed, but not nearly as rules heavy regimental level Civil War system, I would look at Blind Swords, and they've got a whole bunch of games out for that now as well. No, I have never played Labatt, so I named no names. I'll have you know, I named no names. I mean, Findle70 says that the rules flubs are a given. I mean, that is, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to have to correct yourself. And sometimes it'll be too late to go back and fix it. And hopefully it wasn't a ruinous mistake that completely borked the game. But sometimes it is, and you kind of got to reset it. So there's just as much chaos in GBACW, though, to be honest. Because it's also a chit pull system. Brandon Kreitz, welcome to the stream. So thank you so much. Do we happen to know anywhere in Central Ohio to purchase MMP games? No. If you're looking for a brick and mortar store, no, absolutely there is no such place. And if you ask, at least the Guard Tower will tell you that they cannot get multi-man publishing product. Now, I think they're wrong, but maybe they have made a decision to that it's not worth their time. So I'm going to drop a link in the chat to A Gray Rooster LLC sales, and they're my go-to source that's not multi-man if I need to get it at a discount, source for multi-man. And they are actually in Ohio. E4 Airman says a game store in New Philadelphia, Ohio, that sells them? Okay, I'd be curious to know what the name of that game store is. Victor Cintron read somewhere that a lighter version of the Blind Sword system. That may be the system, the Black Swan, I think this is what it's called, system from Most Fearful Sacrifice, the Gettysburg game. I don't know that that's much simpler. Blind Swords is pretty simple. I didn't find it overwhelming or particularly complicated. On the other hand, that's not to say that you should agree with me. So if you really need a simpler system, then maybe look at the Civil War Brigade Battle Series from Worthington. But there's only 2 games in that series, Antietam and Shiloh. And while I think the Shiloh game is good, I was not really that thrilled with Antietam. Even Warzone Matrix does not have that much multi-man. They do have some, and they have a lot of ASL, like third-party ASL stuff. Findle70 is talking about the Warzone Matrix. You can search for Warzone Matrix, and they'll come up. It is an absolutely hellishly overcrowded game store just north of Cleveland Hopkins Airport. So, yeah, Marty, but... So here's the problem with that. Back in 1978, where, a game store might have to deal with half a dozen publishers directly, it's simply not possible to do that now and run a decent game store. You'd have to be talking to dozens of publishers, and nobody is going to do that. They don't have the staff to do that. You'd have to have like a permanent buying team to make the calls, right? A Gray Rooster might be the new Philadelphia store that you're talking about. Does he have a physical location? I didn't think so. Okay, so Wayne sounds like Wayne knows more about this than I am. The Shattered Union system that Herm, meaning Herman Lettman presumably, is working on over Tiny Battle Publications. Okay, I mean, if Herman says, he sees a need for an even simpler system, okay. Cool. And Gamer's Armory is said to be really good. And Gamer's Armory does sell online, too, but you can, that's in North Carolina. And if you happen not to be down there and you're looking for a brick-and-mortar store, then maybe it's not necessarily the first place you go. Ritter Krieg actually is a good place to go for ASL stuff specifically. I wasn't really looking for Gamers Games when I was there last, which has been about a couple of years. So don't quote me on any of their inventory. I kind of just assume they've got another quarter ton of war games in there. That's crazy. Sheen Dogu, first of all, welcome to the stream. I have not played TCS. It is on my to-do list. I can tell you that. Oh, Brandon. So if you're in Hilliard... look me up at ardwulfslair@gmail.com. We've literally got an OCS game within spitting distance of you. So if you are at all interested in that, look me up, ardwulfslair@gmail.com. Gray Rooster's packaging is bulletproof. Okay, I have ordered twice from them now, and once for somebody else and once for me, and I'm like, wow, look at this thing. And he ships like the next day. It's like not quite as good a discount as NWS was giving you, but this guy will actually ship your product, right, without you having to hassle him weeks later because it hasn't shipped yet and you've gotten no communication. William Aarons, thank you again so much. Your strong point as a host is your ability to discuss a wide range of topics with those interested in the hobby. Other sites can cover playthroughs. So, that's a thing, right? At this point, I do still want to do the OCS tutorial series, right? But there's some playthrough stuff that I'd like to do, but it's kind of deprioritized because we do this live stream, we do the Tuesday live stream. I'm still doing an unboxing video every week, which is not zero work, right? And we have 2 game nights and another game night that you guys never hear about because it's Friday night and it's actually it's video games. It's like community game video games with my wife's peeps. And these games would not be of interest to the wargaming community. Let's put it that way. But she really likes it and I really like to make her not mad. So, So I try to participate in that, and sometimes it doesn't happen because I'm at, BGF or whatever. And she understands that. But last week I had, we put in that time, and it's fun, right? Don't get me wrong, but it is not the kind of games that I would normally play. I am enjoying spending time with her and her friends. So, and then there's the Sunday game, which I have all but dropped out of, which is the RPG session, just because I just can't. I can't do 6 days a week in gaming. I just can't. Plus working, right, and doing channel stuff. So I mean, I'm counting the channel stuff as part of my gaming experience because it's part of the hobby. So thank you, William, for that. So largely, you are going to have to depend on other sites that do playthroughs. Sites that are doing really, really great playthroughs right now. Nathan, Wise Guy History was mentioned. I think he's just Wise Guy History now. He's doing some really good stuff with U.S. Civil War. Doug over at the Tabletop's Edge is doing wonderful playthrough content with Last Blitzkrieg, so check that out. Another favorite playthrough channel I have enjoyed is Counterattack. He sold me on the Battle for Normandy, for example. He's done a lot of good stuff. He doesn't do a lot of videos necessarily. He doesn't have a high output, but frankly, that's because these things are a ton of work. Jeremy Antley's series on Roads to Leningrad sold me on that series as well. All right, so let's catch up with this. Valet du Coeur in Montreal. I have heard that, but it's in Montreal and they're French, so I have not been there. Brent says he'll take pictures from Gamer's Armory, which I'm sure he will and has before. They have an excellent wargame selection. Wayne says that he thinks Black Swan turned out to be not as simple as compared to Blind Sword as intended. Okay, I mean, I am comfortable with again, I keep saying this, and I want to emphasize that if you feel that Blind Swords is still heavier than you want, that's a completely valid opinion. I'm not there, but who cares, right? That's just me. So I'm not saying that Herman is crazy for seeing a need for a lighter treatment of Civil War battles that also has some worth as a simulation. Now, another one that I'm interested in seeing is Rebel Fury from Mark Herman. That was originally framed as, okay, it's the Gettysburg system from C3I. Only I didn't like Gettysburg. I didn't think Gettysburg was for me. And again, that's fine. It's not for me. But I did like the Waterloo game, which is kind of a grand tactical / operational field type of thing. And now I'm hearing that it's scale-wise, it's more like Waterloo than Gettysburg. And it's like 5 Civil War battles. So I'm very interested in seeing that. And that will Jesus Christ. And thank you, John Longshore, for taking care of that idiot. Please take care of the remaining idiot. So that is something we're getting big enough, folks, for Nimrods like that to creep into the stream. So sorry about that. Patrick of Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials does a lot of really good, great campaigns in the American Civil War playthrough content. Jason LaRiviere says the Richard Gere hate is a weakness of this channel. I'm not sure I've ever really had much to say about Richard Gere. I have had things bad to say about First Night because it's terrible. Charles Latour is asking which GCACW he should play first. He has Stonewall in the Valley, Road to Gettysburg, Stonewall Jackson's Way, and Here Come the Rebels. And then later on, I gotta find it. Patrick says that he should start with Here Come the Rebels. I actually agree. My favorite teaching scenario for GCACW is South Mountain from Here Come the Rebels. So I wish you could ban these people. So the bots are not eligible for the raffle. Fiddle70. So we have done OCS stuff at Origins in the past, but well, not we. I've actually never played Origins at OCS at Origins, but OCS has been played at Origins not that long ago. It's just been a couple of years now. So the counterattack fella makes some rules mistakes, and I spotted some stuff in his Empire of the Sun videos actually. But, you know, they're not going to be perfect. You be polite about it. You point it out. You're saying, you know, love the series, but, you know, just FYI, blah, 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 blah. That's all you need to do. Squadron shops. What does that even mean? Oh, I'm losing track of the chat here. So somebody's talking about the Complete Strategist, that it was in Boston. Yeah, I don't know what the details. I'm amazed they could stay awake. They could stay in business in New York City. I mean, it can't be. Boston can't be more expensive than New York City. Brant, yeah, we know that It's ECMO week. Jim Ozarski has said we need to talk about the Battle of ECMO, which is part of the Danube Valley campaign. And it's an interesting battle. I think it's like the third most interesting battle of that campaign. So, Patrick from Patrick's Tactics and Tutorials is right. All of the GCACW titles have good starter scenarios. That's just my favorite because it's like 10 counters, or 10 units, I should say. It's more than that. It's about 13. But it takes minutes to set up, and you're immediately playing, and you can squeeze 3 people at the table, which I like. So, Stonewall Jackson's Wave 2 has tons of good content, too. All of the... Cataclysm Now... Christopher Prest mentions the Cataclysm Now has done a great playthrough of Longstreet Attacks. Did I miss that somehow, or was that a while ago? That is possible. Hell, if they own the real... Marty, if they own the real estate, it'd probably be... There's all kinds of things they could do with that would bring in more money than running Wargame store. Not that... I mean, I've seen pictures... Stupidly, I didn't go into the Complete Strategist when I was in New York City. But they sell more than just Wargames, right? It's like an all-purpose gaming store. It's not just Wargames. But they do have a great Wargame selection, too, so... And that wasn't the scenario I started with. I started with one of the early scenarios from Battle Above the Clouds. So, Jesus. Honestly, I feel like my voice is still a little bit rough from. Then again, I've been talking a lot at meetings at work, so that's a factor. So. Okay, the squadron. I gotcha. Elon Musk. Elon Musk is just a guy with a lot of money and a big mouth. He's not buying Twitter. Twitter's not selling to him. So, timing is great. Okay, so giveaway numero dos. We're going to give away one of these. Now, I want you to watch. If you win, I want you to watch my video on how to use this. How to use this thing without misclipping counters, okay? But I will buy and have shipped directly to you an Oregon Laminations Corner Rounder. I think this one's going to have to be U.S. only, folks, however. We're going to do it the same way as last time. So go ahead and put your numbers in. Numbers from 1 to 100. The faster you are, the first number to call the number that wins will get it. So put your numbers in. You will get to pick the size. I don't recommend the 3mm, but if you really want a 3mm, I'll get you a 3mm. I recommend 2 or 2.5 millimeter. Whichever one you want, they're both in stock. I can get it to you within a couple of days. So put in your numbers. For the Oregon Laminations Deluxe, not the Deluxe. The Deluxe is, I consider this to be the superior model because it won't break. It's also about $20 cheaper than the Deluxe, which is interesting. I've had the people report that the spring blows, but in that case, you can buy a new spring and put it in there. That's not a big deal. So, just got to go to McMaster Carr or whoever and buy a spring if you can't go to the local hardware store. Perfidious Albion mentions first edition East Front. I assume you mean Barbarossa Army Group Center. Probably be clipping that next week, actually, because that would be a great place to employ the Aegis counter trays. So I think we'll be clipping that next week and putting that in Aegis counter trays, unless something new comes in the meantime, and I don't think so. The well, pick it. You could pick a different number if you doubled up on a number. I'm gonna cut it off in about a minute here. So your objective is to be the first number that comes up when I do the search for find this number. Imperial Outpost in Glendale, Arizona. Okay. I mean, the local places here, and I've been asked about this. What places do I go to? I usually go to the Guard Tower East, which is one of their 2 locations, and they both have about the same number of war games. Guard Tower East might actually have a little more, because some of those historical guys were shopping out there at one point. But I normally go out there, and I do buy a few games a year from them, even though they're a bit more expensive. They do give you some discount, so it's not like just MSRP. And I prefer to, give the local game store some money. I probably buy more RPG stuff from them, but I haven't really been buying much RPG stuff either, since I told myself the only RPGs I'm allowed to buy are things from Chaosium or Traveler. And I have been sticking about 80% to that rule. Okay. I guess I got in on the One Ring Kickstarter, which I don't regret. It's really nice. But they still haven't fulfilled it all yet either. They still got to ship me the corrected dice on one of the supplements. Oh, he just got a Charlie horse. That is due to the medication that we're on. You're not disqualified, but you're gonna, because I can't police that, man. You got to your first number, the first number that, if 22 comes up, then the first person that put in 22 is going to be the winner. Let me put it that way. Which is probably gameable, but we're now cutting we're cut off. There's cut off. All right. And I should be able to get that out to you within, say, no later than tomorrow. So if you email me tonight, and again, email me that you want a clipper and which size you would like, 2 or 2.5. Again, I'll get you a 3 if you want, but not recommended by me. So, all right, so let's do the giveaway. Here we are back at random.org. Recess Games. They're still in business? I'm rather shocked that they're still in business, actually. Long story. I have a long association with those guys. Or with Jim, the owner, I should say. All right, we're going to hit the button. We've gotten 2. And I'm pretty sure we actually got a 2, but find on this is going to be a bitch, so. I'm not going to be able to find that, am I? Yep, we got one. Kyle Reese, 02. Kyle Reese is the winner. So we actually did manage to find that. I had to search for 2, and there's like a million 2s in there. I got to do it manually anyway. This is why I want to automate this for next week, hopefully. And if it means I have to throw $50 at StreamYard, that's what it means. But we will, or maybe, like I said, maybe I'll just do it I'll have lower resolution, which is lame, but, if we got to do it, we got to do it. So, Cal Reese, please do send me an email at ardwulfslair@gmail.com and tell me which size you would prefer. I do know that out of research, Recess Games, at one point, there was a big 8-player multiplayer game of Empires in Arms happening. So, cool. If Jim's still going strong there, great. But nothing but best wishes for him, just in case I was being cryptic about that. So, I mean, you don't have to clip all 4 corners of the counters, but if you don't, you're probably a savage. So probably both people will have already sent me an email. So let's pop back over there. Yes, indeed. Okay. Well, Kyle has not yet, but ardwulfslair@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to answer other emails too. Let me point this out, since I don't know that I've ever said this directly. If anybody wants to ask me questions or whatever, send me an email. If it's, if it's like, wow, that's such a great question, I want to answer it on the channel, I might say that. And I'm not as fast as getting back to people as I would like to be, but I'm working on that. Man, I'm having trouble reading that. Thank you for the subscription. I've got bad contrast there. Kilroy was here. He just missed the you've just missed the drawings. But don't worry, there will be more giveaways next week. So it's all good. It is all good. So and well, I got two more games sitting, and these are both games. So I might actually do the same thing next week, where we do a game and a giveaway, a game and a clipper, and then the week after that, I don't know. We'll see. I promise a giveaway next week. Let me put it that way. I'll give away 2 things next week too. Perfidious Albion, most brick and mortar modeling shops are extinct in the U.S. We got a couple here, actually. I mean, are they really good? I think they're more model railroad stores than anything else. They do have models. There's a Hobby Town or Hobby Land or something like that. A lot of those places used to carry gaming stuff. Wings Hobby Shop in Lakewood, Ohio, was a place that I went for years for... they may have relocated. No, they're just out of business. Wings Hobby Shop in Lakewood. They were very good for a lot of RPG stuff. They were very good for Avalon Hill and Victory Games. I bought a lot of my original ASL stuff from them, for example. There are people who are doing that are counter clipping for trades. There are people that do that. So, the Hobby Town here in Columbus, I think doesn't really do any game stuff other than maybe Flames of War. I mean, the brick and mortar. So I'm going to kind of circle this back to Wargaming Communities, and this is not really Wargaming Limited. If you think about what a brick and mortar store does, that buying stuff from online from GMT or Grey Roost or Miniature Market or whoever, or Noble Knight, doesn't do. In Noble Knight's case, they do operate a physical store, so you can actually do this. You can get this service from Noble Knight if you live in Madison, Wisconsin. There is a sense of community, right? There's people playing stuff that you can go in and talk to and know people because you hang out at this game store. And I'm not suggesting you be a vagrant and just hang out at the game store because you got nothing better to do. But even just participating in the events that they do and talking to the people that work behind the counter and maybe other people who are pawing through games in the store that you look at. There is a community value in a brick and mortar store that you don't get from an online retailer. Now, maybe you're filling that need online via another avenue, like, this channel, for example, or one of the Wargame groups on Facebook. God help you if that's the case. Children's Palace. Yeah, I bought what was that? I think I bought Squad Leader and I think Squad Leader from Children's Palace at one point. And I picked up some of the old D&D stuff from friggin' Sears back when you could do that, right? So there's a community aspect that will help a Brian Foley. Thanks. You weren't subscribed until now. there's a community aspect of a local brick and mortar store that you may have trouble filling online, right? And that community aspect can help keep people coming in, and therefore help, that's business, right? That can help keep those stores weather the vicissitudes of operating a marginal business, and let's face it is, in a crappy market. And I'm talking about not wargaming stores specifically, because I am unaware of a wargaming brick and mortar store that just sells wargames. This is why I have an idle fantasy of opening a game store, but that literally is not going to happen unless I win a $1 billion lotto or something like that, because it's a total money losing operation, and I would specifically only do the kinds of games that I like. So RPGs and wargames. It would be for people who were into those kinds of games, it would be an absolute paradise. For everybody else and for my wallet, it would be a miserable Gehenna. So we are not, it's not a good business to be in, right? Game Table Adventures in Newark, Ohio. Okay, that's great. Oh, so wait, you're in Newark too, E4 Airmen. So there's other people in Newark. Ronald Nicholson is is in Newark as well. KB Toys. Yeah, I bought a bunch of old D&D stuff from it's actually I bought is a bit of a misnomer. They went out of business when I was about 14. So but it's 10 o'clock already. Holy cow. I barely talk. All right, so let's talk let's wrap it up. We got a couple more minutes here. Let's see where we topped out. Looks pretty good. Looks like we topped out at 147 still. So, tomorrow we have the stream with Dan. The plan is that we're going to have Ben Hall on, and hopefully that will pan out, and we'll have a good conversation with Ben. That is on Dan's channel and No Enemies here at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, so check that out. We have the unboxing video of the week, which is scheduled, already uploaded, and all that stuff for Thursday. It is 4 Lost Battles, I think, from OSG. So we got the other piece of that release that came out. On Wednesday, we will have the Aegis Storage Trays video review, and it's like 22 minutes long. It's it's a pretty comprehensive look at it. But then I had already filmed mine. And just hadn't uploaded it yet, and then Mo released his, and I'm like, crap, his is better than mine. God damn it, Mo. So we got some great recommendations for local game stores here. And I do think that folks should try to support their local game stores where possible, right? I mean, but if your local game store says we can't get the stuff you want to buy, well, what can you do, right? So anyway, I think that's everything that's coming. We will be back next Monday with more counterclipping goodness and more giveaways. So once again, thanks everybody for stopping by tonight for the, I guess, part 1 of the 5,000 subscriber celebration. I guess we're at least 503 now. So I want to change the contrast on that so that I can actually see it when it happens, or I can read the names. And it's a pain to monkey with, but we'll see if we can solve these technical problems in the off time. So Dan is running the stream tomorrow, so we don't have to worry about that. So once again, thanks everybody. Thanks to the patrons of Ardwulf's Lair. Your support really means a lot, and it's very helpful to making this thing actually happen every week. So once again,